Ja. Who are you?
Be careful. or I'm
Mitch?
gonna-
Where am I?
If I have the brain freeze.
I'll
that's
be out, I'll
sad.
slap you in the back.
Oh, what's going on? Yeah, it's starting. All right, so I'll get rolling here.
Cam, just
Hall,
say yes.
Bob Hutchison, Thomas Moses, Davis Kukulski.
Here.
Bob Reynolds.
Here.
We have Wentz. Andy Palmer, Jamel Perkins, and Jenna McGregor are excused. We have Dave Manko here representing Mission Hills. We have Mary Doran and Jennifer Strong. Can we start with a pledge of allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Motion to open the September 20th, 2023 Hamburg, New York Industrial Development Agency Board of Directors meeting at 7:37 a.m. Thank you. All in favor? Meeting is open. First item on our agenda are the meeting minutes. Motion to approve the meeting minutes from August 9th, 2023.
Approved.
Thank you, Bob.
Second.
Thank you, Davis. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Here, thank you. Next item is the financial report from August 31st, 2023.
Good morning, everybody. Brief report, and I just want to make a comment at the end of it too, so everybody knows. For income, we had $16,954.46. Part of that was due that we had a refund coming of $14,443.71 for our income. Payroll was $11,643.03 this month. And our total expenses was $14,539.81. So we had excess income over expenses of $2,414.65, which brought our assets and totals between our savings accounts and everything that's going on to $964,355.88. Need a motion. Any questions?
Approved. Thanks, Cam. Thank you, Bob Hutchison. On the questions.
It's not on the financial report, so I'm gonna speak after that. So we got everybody done here? Everybody voted for it?
It's up for vote.
Okay. I just want to talk about.
Oh, okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, financial report from August
Yeah.
was carried.
Just so everybody knows that Sean has put the projected budget together for next year. We had an executive board meeting from the executive committee. We went over it. We're working on it. We'll probably present it hopefully in October to the board for their review and stuff like that for the next year's budget. So we are working on that just to keep everybody up to date. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Okay, on to my report. We have carrying projects that are open but have yet closed. KH Industries and Stock Precision Machine. They're due to close in October of this year. Mission Hills, which Dave is representing, is here today. And those are the open projects. Some activity. I did receive, there's some good news. I was reached out again, so maybe it's back in activity. And I don't know if the IDA will support it or not. But the 77 South Buffalo Street project, it's a multifamily project that's been working its way. It has municipal approvals through the village, but the developer hasn't started due to whatever reasons that I don't know, but they're seemingly moving again, so that's exciting to see that going forward. And then 3556 Lakeshore, which is the Gateway building. I spoke to another developer on, as you may recall, that property was under contract. It had some financing issues, and the due diligence period timed out, so it's back on the market. So I spoke with another developer. One item that I learned, that's kind of, through some meetings I'll talk about later. That's potentially driving investment in the upstate parts of New York is expiration of I think it's a 421 program, which is a tax exemption law in New York City. And that has actually expired and not been renewed. So it was like, I'm not as familiar with the details, but I think it's up to like a 25-year tax abatement on multifamily projects. So there's a lot of potential idle investment monies that, were deployed in New York City and the 5 boroughs that they may be seeking other opportunities around the state, around the nation to invest in money. So it could be a boon for the Western New York region. So that kind of led to that Lakeshore Road inquiry. And then on the advocacy and legislation, one area where I learned about this was a meeting with Ryan Silva, who's the president, executive director of the New York State Economic Development Council. He was in town and met with the local IDAs, and they're kind of they are our advocacy arm in addition to the efforts that we exhibit in terms of, kind of communicating the benefits of industrial and development and industrial development activities throughout the state. So it was a good meeting, and it's continuing to push all the positive outcomes of our projects and the positive outcomes on the tax base and job creation in the state. Looking ahead, there's a couple auctions coming up that we will talk about in our Land Development Corporation meeting. Camp Road Exit 57, the Thruway Authority parcel, that is up for auction in the Cheektowaga offices of Thruway Authority on October 12th. And our next board meeting is October 18th of next month. As Bob had mentioned, in our executive committee, we went over our budget draft, the Labella Phase 2 review for the Crossroads site, which we'll talk about in the land meeting, and we talked about the upcoming auctions. Pitch Hamburg has its second cohort opening up September 2023. So we're going to be taking the second batch of entrepreneurs into that program. And another interesting piece of information over the past month, I did meet with one of the neighbors of Republic Steel. So there's a couple of owners that surround that site. I've been unable to connect with Republic to determine how that land and how the wind down will happen at that site. And it seems as though, as best as we can kind of understand from neighbors who kind of work with some shared services over there for step down transformers that supply power to the site, water, that they will seek to maintain that site, into, the next 2 to 5 years, potentially. It's good and it's bad. There will be less employment there, so there will be the layoffs, but the land will kind of be held. I guess the potential would be, if there would be a demand that would drive activity back to that site. So we'll just continue to monitor it. We don't want to see something sitting idle, essentially a great piece of industrial land. But obviously they have site control. There's almost so much you can do there. Any questions?
No, just one observation. Positive note, there are a number of Amazon delivery trucks in the Amazon parking lot today.
Good to see.
It looks like we're pretty much, ready to open.
Good. There is, Mary's been putting out on social media the job openings. They're on Channel 2 when I was heading out the door this morning. There was they're having job fairs, so they're ramping up for the holiday season, all the sites in the region here. So yeah, great to see some activities.
They're hiring 250,000 holiday work across the nation.
Hope they do better than we can.
Hiring workers.
Hire workers. We're paying guys $20 an hour to run a weed whacker, and we can't get someone to work more than 2 days.
Wow.
Don't come back from lunch, don't come into work at all. One guy worked 1 week, he missed 3 days out of 5 days, and then he took off the other 2 days early.
All right, next item on our agenda.
That's a different discussion.
Yeah. Isn't it, is Mission Hills Extension Resolution. So I'll read through the resolution. If it is moved, then we'll, you can move on to question. The developer is here to kind of answer some questions from the board, and we can have a discussion from there. Resolution of the Town of Hamburg Industrial Development Agency extending the inducement period and sales tax period for Mission Hills Developer LLC. This is whereas the Town of Hamburg Industrial Development Agency by resolution adopted on August 17th, 2022, approved assistance for the project, and whereas there's been a delay in finishing the project and in obtaining financing, and now therefore the Town of Hamburg Industrial Development Agency hereby resolves as follows. The agency hereby extend the inducement period and the sales tax period for the lessee from August 18th, 2023 through February 17th, 2024. Upon payment by the lessee of an extension fee per the agency fee schedule, and this resolution shall take effect immediately. So move.
So move.
Bob Reynolds, second.
Second.
Bob Hutchison. On to questions.
We're going back to August 18th is instead of starting in September. Is that all kosher?
It actually expired last month.
Yeah, I know.
So that's,
Just to keep it kosher, is that why we're doing it?
we normally give 6-month extensions.
Okay.
And this was on your agenda last month. and it was
Right.
tabled
Right, okay, so we're just staying in that way. We're okay doing that though.
to the board.
Yeah, I know, but it's okay doing it that way, that's right. Okay, because it's a 1 month that they bought product during that month, they're gonna get their sales tax abatement.
Right, and I don't know if they did or not.
Okay, just so as long as it's kosher, that's all I'm looking at. Council.
So, and just to, provide some further clarification, the sales tax letter has not been issued. So the developer is here to explain some of the delays in the project. They had submitted the 25% down payment for the sales tax. But due to the fact that you're correct, that the project was expired.
Right.
We held on to the check. We didn't issue any letters. Until I had board authorization that we could do the sales. So, Mr. Menko, you want to talk about your project, please?
Yeah, I'm gonna stand for a little bit, but they're gonna get a new hip in October, so I can only stand up for so long, but. Basically, we would have closed this project probably back in January or February of this past year. We had built a subdivision at Mission Hills, and we built a 81 lot subdivision, which 52 or 55 of the lots have been closed on by Random Mark Equity approximately 3 weeks ago. The bank lender, S&T Bank, who's lending us the funds and has lent us all the funds for our project so far, basically had a stipulation that we had to close the Morano loan prior to them issuing us a commitment letter. And what happened was back in January, Morano's attorney reviewed title to the property prior to closing and did not like language that was in our title. And our Conrail originally owned our land, and behind us is Conrail tracks. And there's a language that their attorney, Mr. Kelly, wanted removed. And regarding this word condemnation, which allows the DOT and Conrail to annex your land for any reason they see fit, usually during war or some type of repair disaster or things like that. And with their experience down in the city of Buffalo, they had bought a railroad section of land, I guess, off of Colvin area or off of Hurdle. And the city wouldn't close on the land unless we got the language removed, which I didn't even know how to do at the beginning. So, which required us to go to see the governor, required us to see the Department of Transportation. And there's 42 departments inside the Department of Transportation that has to write what's called a decline letter, which took 7 months for each department to write that they had no interest in your property. And then once we received the 42 letters, it took the legal department 6 weeks to write a 1-paragraph letter that we then could change the title to the land once we got it. It took about 2 weeks to close, which we closed about 3 weeks ago with Moreno Mark Equity. Which we then presented that to S&T Bank, which they took to their board meeting. And they're now writing us our commitment letter to close, which she said will take them 90 days, minimum to close, 90 days. So I'm anticipating our letter in the next week or two from the bank, and then from that point, we give them $50,000 deposit, and we go to close. And so that would put us right around Christmas time, or right after the first of the year closing. So if we had an extension until February 14th.
The
17th.
6-month extension would be through February 17th.
Yeah, we should be just fine.
Okay.
We should be just fine. The only thing I would ask is if you guys could waive the fee. What's going on is the interest rates are escalating. So what's going on is when we started this last year, if I would have closed last January, my loan amount would have been $12,200,000 from the bank. As the interest rates are increasing, the loan amount is dropping like this, and you're shelling more cash out of your pocket to make it spread. Material costs from June last year till now are $700,000 more. Material costs $700,000 more than it was last year at this time. And our loan amount has now gone down to 11 million. So we've now coming out of pocket $1.2 million, you know what I mean, to make up the difference. And you know, I'm just throwing myself on the mercy of the board. That's it.
Do we need to discuss increasing the project amount then?
No, this project is still $12,200,000. It's originally projected. We're just making a spread difference out of pocket. Yeah,
Just check.
yeah. And the what's going on is they're forecasting interest rates. The banks are looking at this, and the interest rates they're forecasting for the future, when we're completed and we have to get out of our construction loan, they're saying interest rates could be around 8.5 to 8.75, and that's what's diminishing our value. You know, what you could mortgage, and then obviously the banks do require you to carry certain debt cover ratios, and the ratios that we project are like a 1.26, which means for every dollar of income you make, you can't put all $1 to debt. You got to at least make 20. You got to put 26 cents aside of that dollar towards like repairs, operational cost, and profit. So that's what's going on in the development world.
Okay. Sean, could you explain the extension fee to us?
So essentially, waiving the extension fee, the extension fee would amount to around $30,000 for this. And this project this would be the first extension for this project. So it has not had multiple extensions. So that answers to that question. I had a question in terms of, you know, this is an induced, supported by the idea, a senior housing multifamily project. What is the demand for senior housing in Hamburg? Is there still
Currently
demand?
right now, all my friends that are in the apartment business, every apartment complex will ours. We have over 250 people waiting list. These new units that we're building, these are going to be these are ranches. A little more on the higher end, the 1,400 square feet, 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2 and 1 car garage attached. All high amenities, granite countertops, all that. These things rent for $2,400–2,500 a month. Currently 18 of the first 55 off a little 1-paragraph article that was written in the paper. We have 18 people waiting list to move in. They're coming as majority of the people that I see are within a 5-mile radius, but we do have some. One guy that lived in Hamburg, who lives in Arcade, is now moving back here. Him and his wife were school teachers, retired. We have a gentleman from New Jersey, read the article, from Buffalo, moving back to Buffalo. And but the majority of the people are from this area. So yeah, it's as fast as we could probably build them. And where David Burke is up there on top of there, they're over 40% pre-leased, and then not even done framing the buildings yet. Just last month, we had 12 people out of 200, our first 240 units that are there that you guys supported us with. We had 12 turnovers last month, coming up for this month. And out of that 12, all 12 were rented in one day. which 5 years ago, would have took you maybe 6-7 weeks to rent, just one day. People are just waiting to find places to move into. There's nothing out there. I don't know where it's all coming from, but everybody's at 100% occupancy rate.
It's the nicest place to live in the United States, in Buffalo, New York.
You better believe
Reader's
that.
Digest.
My son has taken an economics course and, for property management, and he's taken it to National Fuel office buildings, and most of his classmates are guys from Benderson Development, and they had a regional gentleman there speaking to him last week and saying that Buffalo is now on the radar map as a great place to live based upon climate, weather, natural disasters. We're now people are starting to look at us saying this really isn't a bad place to live. Yeah, and then
Well, that's good.
and then down in Florida, I think I would all live there because you can't even get insurance on new projects. But the insurance companies aren't even insuring the properties.
Damn hurricanes.
Yeah.
I'll take snow anytime.
Can't believe that.
And one last comment, this project is subject to the inclusionary zoning law of the town of Hamburg as well, so the 10% low income applies as it was discussed when the project was in.
Yeah, we already have 3 individuals for those units already.
You know, as a financial guy here, this is a tough decision, because I always take the brunt of this, but maybe a proposal would be for this board just to cut your price in half, sir. Because we still have expenses, we have to meet and everything like this and payroll, stuff like this, so. Jen, I think it's kind of legal that we could make it go down to half our.
Right, I mean, based on case by case
Yeah.
situations in the past.
Since I love negotiations, you know, and this is really isn't even a negotiation, it's, you know, maybe I could propose to the board that we go to half. Which would cut your 15,000 and we can keep our expenses in line for what we've done on this with our attorney and everything
Sure.
else. Okay. So I'd like to make a motion that we amend this. And put a line in this agreement that the extension fee will be reduced at 1/2 normal amount. Move it forward that way. It's up to the board.
I'll second that.
Okay, so motion to move the amended resolution, Bob Hutchison, Bob Reynolds, and then seconded by Bob Hutchison.
Is there any discussion on it?
Any other
Any
questions?
question?
I think that's a fairly approach.
Okay, and the developer will
Fair.
have no additional fees until February 17th, 2024.
Right.
Okay,
So that with that in mind, then Sean, I have to start to purchase $1 million worth of material now for the bank. Because we have to give them all the receipts prior to closing. So how long would it take to get the sales tax certificate?
we could get that out later today,
Okay,
so
right.
we'll move, assuming, so can I have a motion to approve, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, resolution carried. So, yeah, so this is my green light, my authorization now.
all right,
So we'll process, the sales tax letters and
Yes.
and get you a copy. Today, project agent agreement, I believe, is signed.
It's already signed. I will just add the sentence to the resolution and get that out today to be
Okay.
signed. And then you can.
Yeah,
okay,
the only thing I would caution you that Jennifer had mentioned is just that, you know, due to the cost of materials increase, just watch your sales tax spend.
yeah,
I would advise you, if you do need to exceed that,
yeah,
to come back to the board versus going over it
yes,
and then coming back to the board
Yeah.
after that.
Yeah.
So, but no, we can get that and you can start moving the project forward. So this is, great. Sorry for the
I was
unforeseen
hoping,
delay.
I was hoping when I first started this project that we had like $1 million cushion, you know what I mean? But now it's being gobbled up through just inflationary, just inflation, it's just gobbling things up all the time, so. Yeah, well, I keep my eye on it all the time. I'll know, because I buy the job out relatively quickly. I'll buy all my materials. And then everything else is just labor contracts, and we're kind of different. We control all the labor, we control all the material on the job. When you come to work for us, it's just labor only, so we'll pretty much know. within the
Okay,
next
what you're
2
spending.
or 3 months, what we're spending right off the bat.
Okay,
Okay,
all right, thank you, Dave.
thank you very much.
Good luck. Good luck with your
Yeah.
surgery.
Yeah, we'll see you guys. Thank you very much.
Nope. Not quite done yet. All right, privilege of the floor. Executive session. Motion to adjourn the September 20th, 2023 Hamburg IDA meeting at 8:01 a.m.
Davis is in there. Davis.
David, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion adjourned. Meeting adjourned.
That's right. Someday somebody's gotta take over. You know, he talked he talks about hiring.
Well, yeah, I'm sure you have some tidbits on Lowe's.
Oh, man, I'm learning a lot about retail. They don't walk in retail.
Well,
Nuts.
I think, as a consumer nowadays, I don't expect any help, any knowledge, any assistance when I go shopping.
Come and see me.
I've lowered my expectations to meet the
Come
market.
and see me. I'm the #1 guy to come and see, because I'll help
Oh,
you
I
with
would
your project.
imagine. But you're like the unicorn there.
I thought it was a fair result. I understand.
So, well, it bolsters the local, your true values, so they typically have
Yeah, sure.
a little bit more knowledge. All right, roll call for our Land Development Corporation meeting. Cam Hall,
Here.
Bob Hutchison, Thomas Moses, Davis Pekulski,
Here. Yes.
Bob Reynolds. And we have Palmer, Perkins, McGregor, Plar, and Valentin excused. Motion to open the September 20th, 2023 Hamburg, New York Land Development Corporation Board of Directors meeting at 8:02 a.m. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Cam. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Meeting is open. Motion to approve the meeting minutes from August 9th, 2023. Thank you, Cam. Second. Thank you, Bob. H. All in favor? Opposed?
You guys, there's a meeting going.
I thought they were the table, maybe, help us out.
He's had a reshuffle in the deck.
I got too much paperwork. What do you?
Do you want?
Am I up?
Do you want me to do the financial? report?
I had to find it. It's one street. Look at the other.
We're all about business here.
Yeah, sure.
You got them all flustered out.
Okay. Thanks to our redirection on income of our CDs and stuff, we had $4,439.69 in interest and income last month. Our expenses, we had $11,200 in expense, and that was due to the due diligence that we did on the property that we bought. So that was put against the Lakeshore Road project. So we have excess expenses over income this month, $6,760.31, which will leave our net assets at $1,661,669.08. Any questions?
Motion to approve. Thank you, Davis.
Thanks, Davis.
Thank you, Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, on to my update. Few things here. As I had alluded to at our last meeting, we did have a executive committee meeting to review more details of the Lakeshore Road redevelopment site. This is the Crossroads site that we had purchased in August. We had a phase 2 review summary that was presented by Labella. There was some minor suspect contamination found, which it is contamination from boundary sand at the site. At this point, there's an opportunity where you could spend additional funding to do more, or spend additional funds to do more environmental due diligence or not. It's something that is not, as Labella represented, very concerning or prohibitive to future development. So at this time, I think, the executive committee for budget purposes going into 2024, we wouldn't have additional spend in that arena. Going forward, what I am doing is collating pricing for more pre-development type of activities. So these activities would be a cultural resource investigation. So essentially, that is something that was done at the Lake Erie Commerce Center, where you would do a survey for archaeological resources at the site. So, potentially, if there would be any significance to the site as like a burial ground or, fossil material, anything of that kind. So we would provide a cultural resource investigation, doing a survey for endangered species, and then finally a geotechnical analysis to determine the buildability of the soils at the site. So what I'm going to do and what was presented and supported through the executive committee was to collate this pricing and then look to present it in a grant request, that we would look to provide some redevelopment activities, support this site for redevelopment, and see if we can get some financial support from New York, from Empire State Development, if there's some federal funds available, to see if we can get some financial support to do pre-development activities. And those activities would essentially move the project forward into the pre-permit. So once we have, once we're starting to move on that, we would then be able to present the project to the town if the board would see fit, where we would start to pre-permit the site, where we'd essentially develop a scope of what type of operation would go in there, what type of buildings would go in there, and then we can present it to the town if we desire to get it pre-permitted, which certainly is a motivating factor for developers, and certainly would add interest and help to move the site to productive use. Additionally, we talked a lot about subdividing the site and how that can be done. Initially, we were looking at adding infrastructure through the site, which will cost significant dollars. Into the 7 figures to add a roadway and infrastructure through the site. We will look at, I'm going to meet with some civil engineers to see if we can kind of break in access from different parts of the site, and then potentially subdivide it by getting access, through the roadways that border the site. See if there is potential there before we present, order of magnitude estimates and, further investigate like adding a roadway through, see if there's a cheaper way to get that done, and then it would potentially break it up for smaller users. So we're still determining, can that be done? Is it cost effective if we have to do the roadway? And simultaneously, working with larger users to see if there is interest out there. So it's certainly, we don't have marketing materials, like, we haven't kind of presented it to the market formally yet, but certainly through Invest Buffalo, through my networks, we're promoting the land as being out there, but we would like to I think exhibit some due diligence in making sure that we're providing the most taxable improvement and job creation upon the land that we can. So we're not going to be hasty to dispose of this site, but certainly if the right user comes along, we would move those talks forward.
Is there any time limit on the validity of the studies that we do, like for the archaeological or the is there like 5 years that remains effective?
It's well, wetland delineation is 5 years. That's a little bit more solid. The archaeological, it's arbitrary. We ran into this with the Amazon development with Walden, where the comments to the state said we needed an updated study, and our comments to the state, more so through the developer, were these are archaeological resources. If they weren't there, 10 years ago, why would they be there now? And the state came back with, well, there's different means and methods for determination, that they've kind of changed how they explore the sites. So unfortunately, it had to be done again. So I would say, probably, again, it's arbitrary, there's no hard and fast rule. But I guess you would say like 7 to 10 years, that study should be good for. It's not cheap. I mean, to investigate this site, just in that arena alone, I would think it would be around $40,000. Because it's digging, it's hand digging, and examining the soils at the site. So they essentially grid it out and, break it up in a grid pattern and get out with shovels and start digging.
So that we. Since you're doing a report, so should we put the money into this year's budget then?
We have some funds in this year's budget where we could have spent in 2024,
Okay.
but my suggestion would be to. Let's get the pricing and seek financial support. And then keep our financial resources for potential other land development activities if they should come around. So I would recommend to, the state is supporting pre-development, they understand that there's a lack of available sites within the state. So, and they are funding similar projects. So my thought would be to, let's go through a cycle, essentially, a grant cycle. So it'd be through next summer through Empire State and, submit for it and see if we can, we'll get the numbers together and then we can seek financial support through the state. If we are not successful in the financial support, then we could potentially make a determination from there whether or not we could afford or if we would want to allocate the financial resources to do it internally.
Good, if this is my thought, again, if we put, say, 100,000 into developing this property in the budget this year. And we don't use it, it's not gonna hurt us, but we're ready to, it's already in the budget. So then we just need how we're gonna use the money. In other words, I already went put 40,000 on an archaeological study that's in the budget already. So even though our budget number might look a little negative for the year, at least we have the money there that everybody knows up front that we've got the money up front to do some of these studies. And I think we should get pre-development done as quick as possible, because then maybe we don't have to build a road, maybe we don't have to do this stuff that we've got it already developed. With archaeological, environmental, wetlands, stuff like that, and at least put some money in this year's budget. And I also like to add to this year's budget, and the reason I'm talking budget, because we're doing it, is I think we should put our assets. We either have to put it in this land development, because the land development company bought it, right? Put that asset of that property right now, because that won't make our budget look that bad, because we're gonna add in $400,000 of land assets. Coming into our overall assets, right? So that way, if we took 100,000 out. Because we just spent whatever, 516,000 over here, right? It's worth 400,000 at least, we know that, or more, right? So if we put this all in our budget and we took 100,000 out, our budget will still be within, it won't look like we're taking a lot of money out. But at least we have the money there allocated up front. So we're open and honest to the public. Here we put 100,000 and we're gonna spend it on archaeological. And if we can get a grant, guess what? We got the money at the end of the year, we just roll it back into our budget that we did it other ways. Because we have to add the grant money in. So I'm just having this discussion with everybody here because we've been discussing on executive board, but that's my thoughts.
Oh, and I'm not opposed to that. And what I can do before our next executive meeting is at least get budget number estimates.
Right.
So it may not be 100,000.
Right.
But I could get those budget number estimates and then we could look at.
You know what I'm saying, Tom? I mean, when you do a budget, you kind of want your money up front instead of going back and reaching it, because then it says, oh, they came back and reached into the budget. But if a budget is to look at, we used to look at road work all the time. When you look at road work, put the money in there. If you don't use it all, you roll it over, or you can move it to another fund that you need money on. So that way the public sees your budget out there as we did everything up front that we said we're gonna do. If we didn't do it, it rolls it over.
Yeah, because that way there, your money looks like it's being used in a proper perspective.
Right.
Otherwise, you're just floating and not balancing anything. This way here, it's earmarked, or if it's not taken into, you can't do it, then you're earmarked in a different direction.
Okay.
That's all,
Yeah.
that's a good point.
Yeah, and I think we ought to put the asset in there. We now have a significant asset again of work.
I'm confused. It is. It's listed as an S.
I didn't see that. I'm on the IDA, or, oh, I'm looking at the IDA. I'm sorry.
In development for.
Yeah, I'm looking at the idea. Yeah.
$30,000 ask.
I'm sorry. I was looking at- I told you,
That's,
I like
that was
that.
our purchase price, right? Roughly 530. That's
Mhm.
how we decided to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know, I guess I'm, my only, wariness with the plan that was suggested is that, like, it. Any pre-development sort of. Is itself a decision, right? And I kind of like that we need to assess whether that's a value added investment. Rather than just sort of saying, well, we're gonna assume it's a value added investment and we're gonna budget to do it, even though it may not be.
Yeah, I
Right,
mean,
like it
certainly the
It might
market.
not be the most effective use of our money to put a road in there. It might be, but it might not be. Right, and I'd rather you make that, you have the opportunity to do that assessment and come back to us and say, well, now I think there's X $1,000 I need, we need
Mhm.
to make those investments.
Well, and this
Here's
next,
why.
this next couple of weeks will, like, as I have, we do more work on the land. I'll have more financial data to it and an understanding. I mean, there's. Without looking into it, my guess is we cannot afford to put a roadway in infrastructure. And then number one, we don't have the cash. And then to make a financial justification out of it, we're not gonna make money.
Right.
You're gonna have to roll that over in a per acre cost, and it could be, 80, 90, $100,000 an acre, which the market's not gonna support now. So we would definitely take it as a loss. So, I can say that without outside financial support, that roadway is not happening. Or if we, get a great negotiation like we did with the Lake Erie Commerce Center with a developer, it's a covenant that the developer provides access or develops the land in a fashion. So that is not likely. The other ones, yeah, like you said, it may not. I mean, the market may continue to decline and the land value may appreciate.
I guess I wonder, like, I know you haven't made a motion, but what?
Yeah,
Like,
we're just
based
discussing.
upon what, are you suggesting what dollar amount?
He's gonna come back, so he's gotta come back in his budget.
So we're not gonna make this change today.
Yeah,
You're
no,
just
no.
the next-
I'm just having a discussion on the open, because he brought up the budget, so I'm kind of, because I didn't see the 400,000, it's not listed here under the land development camp. Because we lost $514,000 last year. Because we didn't put the 400,000 in here, so we gotta put the 400,000 in here on the one that I have. I'm looking at our budget.
Oh, I didn't even present the budget.
Yeah, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying, you've seen
You don't
it,
tend to list your assets in your budget, right? I mean, it's more of
but you have to list it as part of your starting.
It'll be our balance sheet.
Yeah,
Yeah, it would be on our balance sheet so when we get,
here.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, so it is carried on this.
but it's not carried into our budget because that's what throws our budget out to 514,000 because we picked up an asset. On last year's budget, we're in the hole 514,000 because we didn't put the asset in there. You gotta put the asset in there somewhere, so it only looks like we lost 114,000. Which was all our work and everything like going forward, because we did pick up an asset of 400,000.
I mean, I don't think a budget is
Well,
supposed to be
I know
unless you're
it's not-
budgeting to
we
sell,
have to
like, it's
approve
a
this.
cash budget.
yeah,
right?
but we
It's-
have to approve this budget, and isn't a budget public? Once you approve it,
Oh, yeah, no, we
Yeah.
would present this.
so
I
if you
think-
put your money, show your asset in the budget. Now it's going out, it doesn't look like somebody's gonna come up and say, hey, we lost $500,000.
I think what we would do at least,
You said we have an asset.
yeah.
Yeah,
See
but-
that on our balance sheet.
But they're not
They're
gonna look at it
different
that way.
documents. They're different
Cam,
documents.
Kim, it's not a business now, you're running a government here or an agency, you gotta look at what the public sees, the public's gonna see $514,000 loss on the year. Because even though we bought property with it, it's not listed in there as an asset for us. So somehow we have to work that into what we're doing with the budget, so it only shows that we lost 114,000. Because right away,
Why did we lose 114? Like, we're sitting on an asset. that's
Because
worth
we had
what
a-
we paid for.
yeah, but we had to pay
That's why we bought it.
expenses, we had to pay expenses to buy it. Everything else goes on it, so you have expenses that are greater than the asset itself. We had to do due diligence, that's all expenses coming out of it.
Well, I think on like as a footnote, certainly on our audit, it'll be represented, because the auditor is gonna want to know where this money went. So they'll speak to it, but what we could do on the budget doc is just put that other worksheet that we're managing in terms of like the spend. So here, so Zero Lakeshore Road project, you have land acquisition, you have phase 1 costs, you have phase 2 costs, you have legal costs.
Okay.
And then the closing costs, so you could kind of represent that, this is the budget amount. And then this is the spend relative to this project, so at least, someone reading it would understand like, okay, they spent, $525,000 on this land at Zero Lakeshore Road. And then it's guidance too for the board to determine, at least on a financial justification, aside from whatever project is coming in and that, the merits on that. We spent X and, we're gonna, accept Y for the land. So at least in that regard, you can say like, wow, they spent a ton of money. However, as I read down here, they've acquired, 26 acres.
And again,
I don't recall us doing the same when we sold it. Right,
No.
we made 800 whatever $1,000. when we
Right.
Sold that, and I don't remember us going,
But
don't
we-
worry, guys, we didn't really make money. Here's an asset we no longer own. Like, I just feel like we can't have it both ways.
but when I got involved with this thing, our finances were a little shaky in how we were doing things, and we keep straightening them up and stuff like this, and just again, this is just the board talking. I'm just looking at, as we face the battle of these IDAs that they want to eliminate us, you gotta, we're out in public, people see everything we do. So make sure that we show that we're doing something, and it's not 500, it's not a $500,000 loss. We gained 400,000 on it, we invested 100,000 to get 400,000 actually, a piece of property. And that's all I'm saying, just think about that a little bit out there. Cause I know doing budgets, that people, they'll get this online. Cause it's a public document.
And I'd have to
Just
look
think
at-
about that, Sean, how you wanna present it. That's all I'm saying.
Well, honestly, I would lean to the accountant, and it's more
Yeah.
so of a balance sheet than a budget, how
Right.
the real property is, cause we had a little discussion, like, do we get an appraisal? And we said,
Right.
no, we're not gonna do that.
Right.
I think we're mixing up PR with the appropriate use of different documents. The budget should be our cash budget, our balance sheet should be our balance sheet. You wanna make sure those two documents are linked together to tell our story properly. I think that's a PR issue and not a finance.
Well, here's the thing, Ken, in a public thing, you're supposed to have a balanced budget at the end of the year. This year, we do not have a balanced budget on what we projected at the end of the year. So we're in a negative part of this year. So when you're doing.
But we're not a government service organization.
Yes, you are.
That has.
You're an
ins
agency, right?
But you're not collecting tax money, so it's different.
Okay, but we're giving tax
and
money
outs.
now.
Right, there is no
Right,
obligation
you're
for this.
not, right, you don't need a balance, but you're not.
Okay. Okay, see, man, that's my line of thoughts wrong.
But I would suggest asking the accountant. The best way to handle this, to make sure that you're following the general accounting standards.
Okay.
I can't speak as to those.
And I do think, this is the land corp, not the IDA.
Right, just a land.
So it is different, because how can you forecast, like,
Right.
I'm not gonna, I know, unless something comes in. Like now, I couldn't present to the board that we would have a potential spend.
I'll take the
Or-
recommendations, whatever the accountant says, I'm not here.
Okay,
I just want to make sure we have this discussion, so that you could see where I'm coming from, and I'm the financial guy, it's gotta be. Me and you go to jail, not the rest of
well, and I think, having a footnote, like, and that I would. Imagine it
No.
would be on there, if not, we can have it in there,
Right.
just say that, like, the
Right.
board authorized purchase of X amount of land.
Run it by the accountant, will it?
Okay,
I think we do need to correct the expenses that we.
Oh, we're doing fine in that. We really are. I just want to make sure. When I look at it, 514,000 on the negative side, they're just. To make sure everybody
I
understands.
guess they also want to make the point, like, we seem to be overstating the costs, like. We bought a $530,000 asset, not a 400,000.
Yeah, so we could represent that.
But we never had it appraised, right? So you can't say it's,
Like,
yeah,
that's
we just
the-
It
purchased
should be
it.
represented at that.
Yeah.
Is one smart.
Yeah,
If we
Yeah.
I
spend
know.
$1 million, if we spend $1 million on it, I'd say we should value it at $1 million, even if the market doesn't say that right now, like,
Okay.
that's
Well,
our.
as long as everybody, the accountant says we could do that, I'm fine. I look at this stuff all the time. I'm looking at the bank things. I'm looking at all this stuff. I just want to make sure that we're doing everything properly because you know what? They're coming after us. Everybody does. Because we give away money. Not give it away, but we
The
give it them.
sale may not have been like a true market sale, and because we approached them to.
Right.
So there is some, but I don't, I mean, on the flip side of that, I don't see going out and getting appraisal and spending.
I don't want to spend money on appraisal. I don't want to
I
spend
don't
money.
think
on
we're.
no, I think.
That's a
we would have the acquisition.
understated.
Tough enough giving
That
$15.
sale may understated, so bad.
Right, we may approve over 5 years to sell them that for
Right.
$530,000 worth of land for $1 million, right?
Right, which is great.
Which is fine, and great.
Sean-
That'll be all upside.
Keeps the agency moving forward.
Okay,
Thanks for the discussion. I didn't mean to get, I know we're all.
Yeah.
talking out here.
and well, no, and I think that, you know, it'll make the budget process smoother as we move forward, so. Another note, wanted to communicate to the board, the Village of Hamburg is looking for IDA support, through a letter, supporting a grant that they're requesting for 33 Scott Street redevelopment. They're asking us to communicate kind of some of the due diligence that we've exhibited on that site and the you know, our sentiment that it needs financial support to be redeveloped. So we're looking to, no, so the current building owner is still the owner. It hasn't transacted. So, you know, we, through the Land Corp, exhibited some due diligence and spent some monies. You know, and then through our due diligence, you know, we had come to the conclusion that we did not want to purchase the asset due to the remediation costs and the overall value of the project after the remediation spent. That was not viable. So what the village is saying is they're trying to, you know, have a collaborative effort that if they would be awarded a grant fund that would essentially make the project financially viable, then the IDA would be interested, or not the IDA, the Land Corp would potentially be interested in getting involved to remediate the site and move the project forward. So it would not lock us into it, but you know, what we would communicate in this letter is that the site has financial distress, it has remediation issues, and that if awarded through the state, the Land Corp would, you know, potentially up until taking title, or being like a manager of the site, you know, that's kind of to be determined, but that we would help to manage redevelopment at that property. So I just want to communicate that.
Do you need a motion or anything like that? Send a letter?
Yeah, well, Jennifer's nodding, yeah, so,
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thanks, Bob Reynolds. Second,
Second.
Davis. Any further question? All in favor? Opposed? Here. Okay, thank you. So I'll work on that and get that out. And that'll support, hopefully moving that project forward.
I don't need anything more.
The issues on that side.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's a hurdle for West End. I mean, we could get, you know, on a whole tangent, but you know, there's a real estate problem in the village. It's a good problem to have. You know, that there's not available properties. And that whole West End redevelopment would bring some, you know, some huge significant real estate to market.
then hopefully that would get Brownsfield involved at this point too.
Yes.
That would be the whole crux of the whole thing.
And, but the village will lead that, which is better than us leading it.
Right.
And then we can come in as a an opportunist to help them out even more, if possible, right? Good, that's good.
Okay, just wrapping up here on to new business. 5710 Camp Road, the auction is today. I provided materials in the package and Mary did, more so Mary did. Just throwing it out there, we don't really have a redevelopment plan. We don't have any due diligence. It's an auction. But now is the time that
How
if
much
the
you wanna
board
bid?
wanted to bid on it, we would want to get into it.
How much you want to bid?
So I would not,
It's the whole.
there's 3 separate parcels.
All right.
I would say, each parcel is about 15 acres. Thinking about this and talking with the executive committee, I mean, I would not value more than $15,000 an acre. So put it at a per acre price that the land development, would not get involved for more than that. Because, I think the land value there, if this would be a level site that has no contamination, we don't know if there is or not. We know it's not level. I mean, that could potentially be valued at, on a low end, say $50,000 an acre. I think, the highest and best use over there would be like mixed use, multifamily, senior housing. As one of the developers that was here today was stating on a neighboring parcel. But there's just too many questions to associate.
Not a Delta Sonic.
So is it 3 15 acres properties or 3
It's a-
totaling 15?
It's 3 acres totaling, no, it's 3 15-acre
Oh,
properties.
it's that
about,
big.
yeah,
Okay.
so it's about 45-50 acres
Right.
over there. So,
So do you have to bid on every one of them, Sean?
no, you could buy one in, the best parcel is 5710 Camp Road. Because, you get access right into the site. And, the one parcel, you would get in the real property improvements, the buildings on the site as usable as they, I mean,
That
I've
might
never
be
done it.
downside.
Yeah. The parcel that is next to the Moose Lodge is the most inaccessible. I mean, it would really make sense that whoever buys 5710 would buy what's called Zero Camp Road. The third parcel is Zero Elm View, so you could get into that parcel. It's kind of rectangular shaped off of Elm View. So that's accessible, but the one parcel, Zero Camp Road, due to the rail, is not very accessible unless you can get through 5710. So those
Yeah.
kind of need to go together.
I mean, I don't know if there's interest, and I don't know that we should talk price because the public's on this call and we're negotiating against
You would be,
another potential
yeah,
buyer
I
here,
mean-
but if you have interest, I would trust your judgment to pay a fair market value.
I don't. What I would need through a board. Is, authorization to bid up to a certain amount.
Your amount's about 225.
What?
225,000.
I mean, from my opinion, other people, my opinion may differ there, I don't have experience in redeveloping concrete sites. Or I'm not a concrete manufacturer or a cement block manufacturer, so there may be additional value to the market out there from other perspectives, but I think for us as a board and where we're at is the cash that we have, we have a land project that was just acquired, and I think that needs our attention. I just don't, due to the nature of the sale being a foreclosure auction, I'm just hesitant because there's only so much information that you can get. So, I mean, I'm not even saying that we need to bid on it, but if,
And that auction's at 9 o'clock this morning.
yeah, so I'd be going there after.
Maybe it's best to focus on our
With
current.
registration at
I think I would.
And that's fine, yeah, and I say, certainly, with redevelop, we would be wholly supportive of, the purchaser of that site and trying to redevelop it. It's a great site, so we'll pass.
I was willing to give you 400,000. I'll do what you gotta do.
I don't-
My price would be a bit lower just because of the unknown. I mean, I wouldn't be.
And my concern
Did
too,
it- Go ahead.
is that we have limited financial resources. So I don't want, I'm concerned also about, and this is kind of where I'm hesitant. I'm concerned about putting the agency in a financial position that the remediation costs or the redevelopment costs would be more than we have available. So then we're sitting on this proverbial albatross because we are cash poor and we cannot, submit the funds to redevelop that site. So we could potentially hinder redevelopment there due to the lack of financial resources. So that's where I'm hesitant.
And when you buy these at auction, you don't get any title work. You just get the deed from the county. That's it. You're taking it
As is.
as is.
Some of those buildings are in rough shape.
It doesn't
So-
extinguish the mortgage, or does it? I mean.
Tax foreclosure will
Extinguish the
mortgage.
mortgage on it.
Right, but if there's boundary disputes or easements or environmental issues, you don't get a survey, you don't get an
Right.
abstract of title. They give you.
It'd be significant. Keep Jennifer busy for a while.
Right.
Right, and there's significant liability of that.
So-
Right, I mean.
Yeah,
Can't
so.
get
I make a motion that Sean stay home.
Well, I would still like to stay engaged with the owner.
That's good.
Of the site, so that, like any valuable parcel, we want to maximize redevelopment potential. And then last, this one, we certainly do not have the money, unfortunately, to purchase, but the throughway exit 57. I don't think we could have an authorization resolution because the minimum bid is 4,300,000.
It was about over 300,000 an acre.
Yeah,
Which, over 200,000 an acre, it just seemed awfully rich. Unless you were building a hotel at, 5 or 6 years ago, you'd have been there.
I don't think there's a parcel in Hamburg that has a market value. So,
300,000.
300,000.
that's the minimum opening bid. So, my plan is to attend
It's the
that
money, the
auction. It's an advance, the state, the taxpayers. Attend that auction and see what happens. I mean, we have to pay
It'd be
attention.
interesting to see if anybody picks it up.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if the minimum bid is not, yeah. So. I have no other matters. Motion to adjourn the Hamburg, New York Land Development Corporation Board of Directors meeting at 8:38 AM.
So moved.
Thank you, Bob.
Second. Davis, my left-hand man.
Okay,
Andy
Cam,
Vaughn.
Cam
Andy's out
Davis.
of the crowd.
all in favor?
Right.
Thanks, everyone. Just one note on the agenda, the Land Corp, the next meeting is October 18th. Forgot to update that. Have a good few weeks until then.
California, hero.
So if the minimum bids